Hey, this is First and Last, a show in which I talk about a television series after having watched the first and last episodes of that series and nothing more. Today, I'm going to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, this show went on for 7 seasons, and it was around from, I believe, 97 to 2003. And these were the years when I was in junior high and high school. And despite the fact that I was into fantasy novels and Dungeons and Dragons and hanging out at comic book shops, I never watched this show. I'm sure that I saw bits and pieces here and there. I definitely had some friends that were into it. And I have a lot of friends that still, think fondly of this show. But for whatever reason, I never watched it. So, the I guess all I really knew going in is that it's about a vampire slayer, and I knew, or I know, I'm somewhat familiar with some of Joss Whedon's other work, so somewhat familiar with his work, and I know it has Sarah Michelle Gellar, and there's a guy with, some early 2000s, late 90s, obnoxiously blonde hair, bleach blonde hair, and that's about it. So the first episode opens, before we meet our protagonist and our main cast of characters. The show opens with this really cheesy voiceover telling the viewers about a prophecy that through which a vampire slayer arises every generation. And the opening scene has two adolescents sneaking into a closed off building, and they are basically, it's a male and female, and the guy is trying to impress this girl. Hey, check out this cool place. And she's kind of weirded out by it, and it essentially is building up to this this cliche horror movie trope of two teenagers sneaking off to go make out, and so the viewer is expecting something evil to jump out of the shadows, a vampire perhaps, and kill these two. But it turns out that the female of the bunch, who is the one hesitant to enter this abandoned place, is actually a vampire herself, and she kills that guy. And I'm sorry, it's not an abandoned place. It's just a closed school, which is the school that the show takes place in. So anyway, and then it goes to the opening credits. So this little opening scene started off. When I was watching it, I was like, oh man, this seems awful. This is just all the cliches at once right off the bat. But they kind of turn it on its side right at the end there, which I think sort of seemed to set the tone for the rest of it, where, this is a show with, there's a lot of humor in the dialogue, a lot of really good dialogue just in that first episode. And it seems to be doing a number of things where these these conventions are turned on their head a little bit. So after that, after the opening credits, which features a song by Nerf Herder, we are introduced to Buffy, who is a high school sophomore, I believe, and she's transferring to this new school. She's moved to a new town with her mom, and turns out that she burned her last school's gymnasium to the ground due to vampires. But of course, this is Buffy's secret. She can't just tell anyone that there's vampires running loose. And in going to this new school, all that she wants to do is leave that past behind her. She doesn't want to be the chosen vampire slayer anymore. She just wants to be a teenager in high school, played by a clearly not teenage actress, but that's how it goes. Uh, and she just wants to enjoy herself and not worry about all that vampire stuff. So she is very much cast as this reluctant hero, and very quickly she meets some friends. They are so the one friend is named Willow, and she is a bit bookish, I guess, and just kind of seems like a timid, nerdy, not in like an overly stereotypical way, but yeah, she kind of rambles about, I don't know, books and random little tangents. It's not. I don't feel that any of the characters were really uh, built as clear caricatures or anything like that. Um, but nonetheless, that is Willow. Then Willow's friend, who also befriends and sort of flirts with Buffy. Um, oh God, what is his? I forget his name. I think it starts with an M. I think. Uh, but anyway, he's also just sort of, I guess, a goofball. I don't know how else to really. There's not a ton of him in the first episode, so yeah, he just kind of seems like overall a good guy who's a goofball, and that's about it. Um, then very quickly in the school, um, Buffy meets the librarian who, well, first of all, the library is this like beautiful, romantically lit, carpeted library, unlike any library any school or public place probably has, but it looks nice. And the librarian, who is a new librarian to this school, already knows a lot about Buffy's. He knows about the fact that she is a vampire slayer. So he is clearly, somehow a part of their like mythology, and I want to say they call him the Watcher or a Watcher. So that is his role. I don't know that they call him that in the first episode, but definitely by the last episode, that's what he is. So his job is essentially to make sure that Buffy is, I guess, has all the resources that she needs to slay vampires. And those are basically the characters she meets at school, other than a like mean popular girl who has some really good 90s insults and one-liners. So that's basically school. Actually, while they're at school, the students find the kid who was killed in the opening scene. He is stuffed in a locker, and they find him dead with, fang bites in his neck, and they don't make a huge deal about it. They just sort of say like, "Oh man, yeah, he was dead. Holy cow, that's wild," and that's it. There's no like, I don't know. They don't really show like, okay, all the students like go home. Someone died. One of a fellow students died. Perhaps was murdered. There might be a murderer loose in this city, in this school. There's like none of that, so that's weird. They just kind of brush that off. Then they all go to a party, or like a nightclub, I guess, and everyone's there, even the librarian. And he's talking to Buffy a little more about, like, you need to hone your skills as a vampire slayer, and she is still being reluctant, like, no, I'm not trying to, like, slay vampires anymore. I just want to, like, hang out. And then she sees Willow talking to someone who Buffy identifies as a vampire, but of course Willow does not. And so Buffy follows those two to make sure Willow doesn't get killed. The vampire leads Willow to a cemetery and kind of corners her in this mausoleum. The female vampire from the opening scene is there, and she has also lured some student from the party, and Buffy shows up, and the other friend whose name I forget shows up, and the vampire people like turn around and reveal themselves as vampires. The vampires, I mean, as they blend in amongst everyone else, they just look like normal people. Buffy identified the one partially because of his clothing, like he was wearing outdated clothes. But then at some point, I guess when they decide to kill someone or whatever, they turn their head around and they suddenly have fangs and a grotesque face and that kind of thing. But anyway, so they reveal themselves as vampires. Everyone's freaked out. Buffy gets into a fight and almost... Well, actually, the first episode ends with like a to be continued as one stronger vampire is like coming down upon her with whatever. There are two things I forgot to mention. Buffy encounters someone else on her way to the club. Some guy comes out of nowhere, and Buffy. He also knows what Buffy's all about. He warns her of I think he has a name for it, but some kind of uprising or some kind of bad event is going to happen, like, I don't know, the awakening or something. Something is going to happen, and he gives her a cross necklace. And, yeah. So then he's gone. And the other thing I forgot to mention is they also show like down in vampire land, whatever, the underworld, they show a like, you know, leader of the vampires rising up from a pool of blood, I think, and he has been, like, they have awakened him, and now all this bad shit is about to start happening because he is back and he needs to feed on people or something like that. And that's basically the first episode. The last episode has... so again, this is the seventh season. The last episode has Buffy training like a small army of girls to fight vampires. And she has also recruited her whole squad of other characters, those from the first episode, as well as many others who, you know, no doubt were slowly rolled into the show as the seasons went on. So Willow is there with a girlfriend, and it seems to be I don't know if it was discovered that she has some sort of powers related to all of this, or she was just able to develop them or something, but she is going to be key in their plan to once and for all defeat the vampires. There's also Angel, who is the guy that mysteriously showed up in the first episode and handed Buffy a cross. He is there, and they clearly had some kind of romantic relationship that is no longer a thing, and he's kind of like whiny about that, but it's actually really great how they handle it. So he's kind of talking about that, and he's upset that that Buffy is now with the guy named Spike, who is the guy with the bleach blonde hair, and she kind of, like, I don't know, he's kind of lamenting that a little bit at some point, and she basically says, like, yeah, I'm not really, like, real tied up or concerned with him either. I'm just, like, I need to figure out myself. And I thought that was a really great thing for this female lead to have, of just, like, yeah, dude, like, just, nah, it's cool, no thanks, but also it's not because I'm more into this other guy. I'm just kind of, like, doing my own thing right now. So I thought that was really great. Also, I just want to mention that I think the name Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a show is great. I think that's, like, a great name for this hero. I like it a lot, but so many of the other characters in the show have terrible names. They just seem like just too comic booky and too like bad. I don't know, like bad fake like stripper names or something, like stage names, I guess I should say, um, or something. I don't know. They're just not good. Like Spike and Angel. I don't know. I mean, Angel. There are people named Angel, but I don't know. I just think it annoyed me. Um, Whatever. So this last episode. So when Angel comes back, he has a pendant to give to Buffy, which is interesting because in the first episode he gives her a cross necklace, and now he's giving her some other kind of necklace thing, and he gives it to her, and I don't think he really explains that much other than saying it has to go to some certain type of person or whatever, and she gives it to Spike, who I believe used to be a vampire, but now he has a soul. They definitely say like now he has a soul, but they don't say what he was before. So I think maybe he was a vampire. He looks like someone that they could have, like who would look like a vampire, I guess. I don't know, like the high cheekbones or something. And so yeah, so she gives that pendant to him, and and the friend who is kind of the goofy friend for that first episode, whose name I keep forgetting. He's probably like a crucial, clearly he is a crucial member of this show. Mackenzie, is that it? I don't know. He has an eye patch now. Not that that's a big deal, but he has an eye patch. And I assume that was a fairly recent development because he makes a few jokes about it, so I'm assuming it didn't happen in like season 2 or anything. So he's there. They're planning what to do to once and for all defeat the vampires. The main antagonist for this episode is they talk about it a little bit. It seems to be some incorporeal evil that's orchestrating all of this, and throughout this episode at the beginning, it's embodied by a priest played by Nathan Fillion. Buffy kills that embodiment of it, but clearly this evil is still around, and he can kind of take on different images. He appears as Buffy a few times and talks to her as herself, and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the ultimate evil they're facing in this episode. I don't know if that is if that being is at all connected to the vampire lord guy from the first episode. I have no idea. They don't mention any connection to that. The main henchman from the first episode is not around. So I don't really know how that developed, how the antagonists developed through the series. I don't know. It's possible that vampire, lost his form and is now an incorporeal being, and it is that same being, maybe, but they don't really mention that, so my guess would be it's not. And so yeah, they return to the school, which is a different high school. Well, like it's still called the same high school, but it's clearly a different building. So I don't know what happened there. Maybe it was burned down again, but like her other school gymnasium. They prepare for this battle. She has like this axe thing. Willow does she like harnesses some kind of positive energy. She glows white and does something with this magical axe thing and gives it to Buffy, and the people are dying. It's not looking great. The vampires are kind of winning. There's like 1,000 of them, and they have like 20 people helping to fight on the good people's side. It's not looking great. And then Buffy, I don't quite know if it was like if the magical axe thing was the catalyst for this or what, but she basically, it kind of flashes back to her giving a little speech, and she is talking about this prophecy of every generation there is a chosen vampire slayer. She talks about it ending with her, because she is essentially going to kind of rewrite those rules and give her power as a vampire slayer to every girl who wants to be a vampire slayer. And I believe they specifically say like girl or woman, um, because whenever they show, um, when they show these vampire slayers that she's been training, they're all female. So yeah, so that's sort of their, I don't know, the turning point in the battle, and everyone gets a, energetic jolt, and they start doing better against the vampires. Then Spike says something about his soul, and he has that pendant thing, and he starts to glow, and then the whole place starts to fall apart, and the Buffy and her team run out of the school and out of the city, and the whole city like crumbles into a crater. So I'm assuming they had like known about this and had evacuated the whole city. I'm assuming. I would hope. So yeah, and then they drive off in a school bus, and then they get out and look over the crater, and one of her friends says something like, hey Buffy, how do you feel now that you're no longer the chosen one, now you're just one of us, and that sort of thing. And her response as she's overlooking the rubble that was this city, she just smiles, and that's where it ends. So I thought that was really great. I yeah, I mean, the whole idea of, that whole idea at the end of giving all these people her power, it works so well, because now she is freed from this burden of being this hero that she maybe didn't want to be, or having all these having this fight that maybe that she didn't want all the time. At least she can now just be a normal person. And at the same time, it's so great that you have this, it appears that this is a show with this really strong female lead, a cast of primarily strong female characters around her. I mean, there's really few male protagonists in this show. And then at the end, the message at the end of this whole show is, hey, girls everywhere, this power is now within you as well. It's not just me. It's not just this one superhero. So I thought that was just a really great message. Also, when so I already talked about her response to Angel, and him sort of whining a little bit about their relationship or whatever. I already mentioned her response was sort of hey, I'm doing my own thing. That also comes across in that very last scene, because she's standing there with her friends that helped her get through this. She's not there on the shoulder of some guy, or there's no final turn and kiss some dude or whatever. So I think it's great that you could have a character, a female lead, whose story would feel complete, and would have a satisfying, happy ending that in no way relies on a guy or a love interest to make her story complete. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really nice. And like I said, overall there was a lot of just smart, witty dialogue in those 2 episodes, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed those, I would say. And I'm kind of I wish I had watched that, I suppose, when it was airing, but it might be fun for me to go back and check it out now. And I don't know that I have any major questions regarding the story. I guess overall I'm curious if it is a show that was more of a episode or a monster of the week type of deal, or how often how often the main story, so to speak, was really involved, or if it was a lot of just misadventures of these people. I don't really know, and I really don't know. You know, there were a lot more characters at the end that I knew nothing about. A few of them, however, died, and they didn't make a big deal about any of them. So there weren't any. Yeah, there really weren't actually any. Well, there was one death at the end that the guy whose name I continue to forget. He was very sad about. I think it was either his love interest. Um, but other than that, there weren't any like tragic moments in this episode, so it didn't seem like that kind of series finale. But yeah, I have no idea really what Angel's role in the show was, um, other than maybe he was yet another mentor character for Buffy. Spike, I have no idea. My guess would be he was an antagonist who was then somehow reformed and joined their side. Maybe a vampire who had his soul returned or whatever. If that's how it works, I don't know. Um, and yeah, other than that, I don't know. And but yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that was pretty good. I would recommend it. I would recommend it to anyone, and I would especially recommend it if you want to watch something with some, well, what at least through those two episodes appear to be a whole lot of strong female characters. Uh, yeah,